If it's in the culture, then it's in the show. Yeah, hey. If it's in the culture, then it's in the show. This is the Matt Black Podcast, hosted by Klarity.
Yep.
If it's in the culture, it's in the show.
It's in the show, baby.
I am your humble, gracious host, Kenny Klarity. My man, Jusmack. Man, what's going on, man? What's going down?
All is well. I think we have something interesting I really want to get into today. So I was checking out this article. It's called Why Millennials Are Skipping Church and Not Going Back by Christine Imba on Washington Post. And so I thought that this would be something really cool that we can kind of dig into, but I want to read something shortly from it. It says this: some of this might strike you as not so shocking. Millennials are entering their prime working years. They got to make their way, climb their ladders, pay down all the student loan debt. Amen. Somehow. So what if they don't have as much time for what surveys call civic and religious engagement? Right now, most of us tend to believe in a life cycle. Yes, people may drift away from their church or temple or congregation when they're young, but they tend to come back when they have kids and things settle down. Except that's not what's happening either. Millennials are leaving religion, especially Christianity, and they're not going back.
Wow.
That's some heavy stuff. I think we can both attest to that. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We got friends, and there's some days I don't really want to go to church and I play.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? But that's another topic for another time. But what? How do you want to delve into this right now?
So I want to talk about.
We are the future of the church, right? I mean, we're the next
bro.
torchbearers to a certain extent.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack, honestly, bro. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I want to search my phone for something because I was on Twitter and I took a poll about this very topic, and I don't know why I'm going to Twitter when I'm saving it, but pretty much I want to read what the dude sent me because I thought it was gold from the standpoint of like it's just real.
Yeah.
And let me see what he said here. I should have it. Give me 1 second, bro. And this is what we do. Like I don't even want to cut none of this. This is real. He said, let's talk about church. He said, no one really talks about it honestly. Sometimes it's hard to go. There are seasons of struggle with it. It can be very cool kid with cliques, etc. But it's also a very human and very much something we are called to be a part of. Terrible tweet. It's okay, right, bro. But I understood what you were trying to say. And so let's talk about it from the perspective of one, as mature believers, bro, who have been in the faith for a little bit.
Yeah.
There are cats still struggling with being in church, finding church membership,
being faithful and going,
not wanting to serve.
Yeah.
And essentially, let's address 3 things. Why it's so hard for millennials to stay in church.
Okay.
What the real reason it is for keeping even mature believers outside of church.
Yeah.
And the struggles with finding a solid church.
Why millennials? I mean, people just don't want. Sunday is a day where you want to rest. To be honest, if we just want to speak from that,
go ahead,
like people just don't want to go to church on Sunday. I have a different theory,
but go ahead, let's talk about it.
I mean, I know sometimes for me, like, especially during football season, I'm a band director, so I'm working 6 o'clock rehearsals, late game Fridays, contests, blase. Sunday, I just kind of want to chill, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to wake up, go eat some food, kick back, and just relax, because I know Monday's coming again.
Monday is coming.
And that's just
every
a lot.
time.
Like, I wish I could make it, and you may have something super, theological and robust. But for me, when I talk to my friends that are, some of them are believers, growing in the faith, that don't attend faithfully, but they go to church. And then my other friends that don't really have a belief system for real, they may go to church because they kind of grew up like we live in the South, right? They just be like, I ain't really feel like going to church. Like nothing about, not to say I don't have those people that's like, pastors doing this and stealing money from the collection plate. No, I got those people, but for the most part, right? Yeah. But for the most part, people just be like, bro, I don't want to go to church. It'd be too long. Some people, I don't really like white people. You know how that goes. So, if they don't want to go to black church, it's too long. White church, they don't really like white people. So it's just,
Brianna,
it's facts right there.
Her and white people don't really mix, brother.
We're going to keep her lifted, though. We're going to keep her lifted.
So I believe all of that is true.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily debating.
Right. I told you was going to have something robust. Go ahead. Break us off.
It's not even robust, bro. Like this is it for
Kenny
me.
Packard.
I think for believers who are serious about Jesus, who have a relationship with him, they can say those are the reasons, but I would say I don't want to be unrealistic.
Yeah.
Maybe 60% of them,
right,
if they've served in other places, are really fighting church hurt.
Okay.
Because I think about even like the people we mutually know know of together, and all of them are not in church because at one point they were in a church, they loved it, they liked it,
they got gas.
Something happened where they were serving or dealt with some type of situation and never have been able to rekindle the position or the spark or the community that they had at a previous place. And they've been nomads ever since. Like I think about myself, right?
Yeah.
I got saved in a church that wasn't really theologically sound, but they were dope. Yeah. They were cool as it pertained to like
community
cultural engagement, neighborhood outreach, things of that nature. When I grew up in the faith, I went to another church shortly after that I felt served me better, which was fasten your seatbelts. A black, like authentically black, Reformed church.
Wow.
Right? I'm talking about
that's an anomaly.
Yes. I'm talking about like black people was all in there, like did worship the way
black
we do worship.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everything. But the teaching and the songs that were sung were theologically sound and solid.
For sure.
They made sure that the theology was just on point every week.
Right.
It was just, it was in the Greek and Hebrew. It was out like workshops, all of that.
That's what's up.
I was there for 2.5 going on 3 years. Everything smooth sailing. The pastors and the elder board are loving each other. We're kissing babies and taking pictures. All that's good, right? All of a sudden, bro, I don't want to get into the specifics,
weeds
but
of it.
A scandal occurred.
God, dog.
Yeah.
God, dog. Well, I tell you, that scandal in the black church, boy, it's going.
And it wasn't to not throw the pastor under the bus. It wasn't sexual. So thank you.
Amen
for that, right?
Why we do that though?
But
Why? Hey, if it was sexual though, boys lose their preaching license. Everything.
Right, that's it. Oh, I knew. It was
you got to come out of the pulpit.
He was sleeping with Sister So. Just go ahead and keep it real, bro. No, thank God it wasn't that.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
But it was a scandal.
Right.
And when approached with the scandal, it could have been handled lightly. It was not because the pastor refused to sit down.
Oh. All that reform went out through. I'm the pastor of this church. I planted this church. Pastor, we got an elder board.
Absolutely, bro. Exactly. So we have that. The pastor refused to sit down. There was a church split.
Golly.
Before the church closed its doors, to this day, the church is not open. So
wow.
That community was absolute gold. Wow. It was gold, bro. It was gold. And if I'm being honest,
all jokes aside, that's just really sad to hear, though.
Yeah. And if I'm being honest, bro, if I'm being 100% honest, the next church I went to was dope. I stayed there even longer. 4 years after that, whatever case it be. And I entered into a white community, worked with the pastors and leadership. It went from a white community to, in about 2 years, about 60-40. And then before I left, it was closer to 50-50. And there was some other reasons why we left that church. But essentially, I've been trying to rekindle what I had, because I was like,
you just sparked something.
Go ahead.
So what you just said, now you kind of making me think, because I have some friends. There was a certain church that me and my wife, before we even married, we were just both serving there. I was working there as, music director. She was worship leader. I mean, a lot of us, it was this church had the propensity to be something really dope. Your wife could probably speak to it, but but it just didn't pop off. It didn't pop off, and a lot of it was behind church hurt. Pastor just dropped the ball on a lot of things. And now that church is no longer, it's not a thing anymore. It's like people remember the church and be like, man, bro, that church was lit, bro. Like, y'all had something. And a lot of those people that we served with and went to church with don't even go to church anymore.
I'm trying to tell you.
Like, legit. Like,
and why do you think that is?
Because of what happened at that church.
Absolutely, bro.
They literally, and it's not even, like, even sometimes when we hang out, the more mature believers of our friends, they were back in church and doing their thing. But there was a season where they was just like, I don't really want to.
Or you're going to 6 churches in the span of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I went to this one spot. It wasn't
I don't trust it. Yeah.
I don't trust dude over there.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Week 3.
Right.
Week 4, I was hungry. I was annoyed. Didn't hear anything he said.
I'm telling you, man, our friends legit don't go to church.
And so we talk to our friends who genuinely love the Lord and want to serve in ministry.
Yeah.
And you be like, so where you at? Man, I'm in
Right now,
transition,
just,
big
you know,
dog.
just-
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And that's and ultimately all of their stories
Yeah.
seem to align with the fact
Back
that
to
at
that.
one point they were in a place, the community was banging,
Yeah.
worship was banging, the teaching was banging.
So
and
at what
something
degree
happened.
do we, because you're going to experience church hurt. I mean, even if you had a solid, profound, church is thriving and moving, there's still going to be some hurt because we are all people
Absolutely.
that's still dealing with things and issues, and we don't know how to communicate. And maybe I wasn't speaking to you, correctly during the volunteer meeting, or maybe I didn't acknowledge your work that you did with the discipleship training or the new members training, whatever. There's going to be some of that. My pushback would be, when do we say, okay, how do I deal with this relationship, instead of just saying, oh, I'm out, this is what I'm talking about? Because if not, then it kind of becomes this whole thing of, well, you said something to me wrong. I ain't like how you came at me about, I didn't show up on time for rehearsal, or I didn't have the grape juice you wanted for, communion or whatever. So, what?
If I'm honest,
That's what we
how
want.
many people, bro, being honest, have really truly identified what I just said about their personal lives?
Oh, they haven't.
Right. So that's step 1.
Right.
Identify that the reason why you haven't been to church in the last 5 years is because you're still thinking about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
2, once you acknowledge the fact that you've identified it, then deal with it.
Yeah.
Take it to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to take it to some of those people
Get back to them. Yeah.
who
For
hurt
sure.
you, who you've been hurt by, or the situations, and literally take it to Christ. Like
Right.
literally, like seek and work on letting it go.
Amen.
Providing forgiveness, receiving forgiveness, because
Yeah.
it's not always the fact that you were hurt. You could have been hurt because you was being a knucklehead.
Right.
And
Not
really
following
it's on
direction.
you. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So identify, deal with, like take it to Christ, and then after that, ask God, because this is probably the biggest part after that, is ask God to renew the passion, vigor, and focus to start over.
Yeah.
Most people aren't in church after even they've done the first 2 things that I just
It's a
talked
process,
about,
bro.
because they don't want to start over.
It is a process. You get used to the function, you get used to the community, you get used to all the little things that we don't think about when you're in the work of serving and going to a church. But once you're not in that environment, you're like, oh, I gotta go do this. And that whole discipleship and being transparent and being open with people is brand new, because you were like, I don't really even know y'all like that.
Facts.
But you asking me about my wife, you asked me about how my personal life is
Don't
going.
worry about my house. How my
I'm
house
just
is
coming
doing,
to worship.
bro.
I already gave my tithe and offering. Leave me alone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, no, those are facts. I also want to make sure that we are not, it can become very like topsy-turvy if we're always, because I know those people that's like, well, I don't really want nobody talking to me like this. And it's kind of like, okay, I understand that there's church hurt, but there's also just church life. Right? Like, you just got to get used to, okay, hey, this is how pastor speaks. This is how this staff person speaks. This is the life of this church. And we got to have some tough skin to be able to kind of work there and provide grace, right? So, I mean.
Yeah, I rock with that, bro. And I think also, if you're not in any of those spaces, if you're not in the I haven't identified a space,
right?
If you're not in the I've already taken it to Christ space,
right.
If you're not in the I don't mind starting over space,
yeah,
then this is the only other one I've ran into that I think is prevalent. I'm tired of serving.
Yeah.
There are people who give their entire Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, right?
Amen.
Two
Amen.
hands at one point
Amen.
where I was literally like, yo,
Amen.
Monday, I probably have to myself, maybe Tuesday. Wednesday, Bible study. Thursday, youth night. Friday, setup and breakdown. Saturday, rehearsal. And then Sunday, all day church.
Been there.
I don't have the rest of my week.
Right.
And so when I think about church, all I think about is me being in a position to where I am serving another person's needs. And frankly, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm burnt out.
I can speak to that. And I think for me, what started as, because I kind of been playing in church since I've been in middle school. So I know, okay, I got to go play, I got to do that. But as the Lord has started, opening up other doors and other gifts have been shown, okay, now I'm going from doing that to, okay, and I'm teaching a lesson to the student ministry, okay, I'm doing this, I'm getting an opportunity to preach, I'm doing all of these things, while at the same time, because, and you can attest to this, whoever you're serving or serving with, they see what God has gifted you, and they're like, okay, well, Brother Kenny, can you go ahead and do this? And we want you to, you know what, I'm going to be out next week. Can you go? And so it becomes this thing where you like,
that's
okay,
how it all starts.
Okay, I got to finish writing this. Okay, I still got to do the word. Okay. And, man, you just want to just wake up one day and just be like, I don't have to play. I don't have to speak. It's
a fact. No, I ain't got hands or legs. Leave me alone. Don't call my phone.
Right.
Don't hit me up about a thing.
Nothing. I'm good.
So that, and then I also think too, man, like, I think the remedy to that is being okay, one, of saying no.
Yeah.
Learn how to say no.
I'm learning that right now, Doc.
Like, it's a difficult thing at first, especially when you are amped and being like, yo, I'm here to serve, I'm here to be whoever you need me to be. I believe in what's going on around here. But at the same time, understand you have different responsibilities, different.
As a father and a husband, man, like now I have learned the art of saying no. Hey man, I need you to come. Can you do? No, Doc, I
can't do it.
I'm not gonna be able to.
That's okay. I can't do it. It's okay, bro.
Yeah,
it's okay. And I think for those who are so used to serving year in and year out, you could be very well tired and burnt out, but you don't have the ability to say no, and so you find yourself blaming the church for issues that are really yours.
When you should have took the initiative to say, I can't be here for that.
Right.
But you didn't. And so now instead of looking inwardly, you're like, y'all making me do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads you to not want to do it again.
Yeah.
So I think those are the four things. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I think we need to do more self-introspection and have more self-awareness that these things are happening, so that we don't find ourselves in spaces of being out of community and struggling with a bunch of other things we didn't have to.
For sure.
For the simple fact that we didn't do the self-work to understand this is what we need. This is how we provide proper balance. Or if you don't know how to do it, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Admit that to yourself and then go seek help to others who are already
looking for a church and finding a church is the same thing we do when we look for communities to live in or schools to go to. Like, if I'm thinking about what type of seminary I want to go to, what type of learner am I? What kind of classroom do I work well in? And what am I trying to get done? And then let me look for that. Once I know that, then I can, and then once I go into those places and spaces, okay, what are some red flags that I just need to be leery of so I can go ahead and meet that in the middle? A lot of times when we're looking at church, because we already kind of have this hurt and stuff talking over here, from what you see, you're already like, well, I don't want to go over there. But I like that. I think that if we look at it and subscribe, okay, what are we looking for? What are we trying to do? All right, let's move in that manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's one I hear often. You can tell me how you feel about this.
Yeah.
Bruh, I understand what you're saying. I know I need to be in church, bruh. I get all that. Truth be told, there ain't many solid churches around, bruh. And that's, I really don't know where to go, because ain't nowhere really solid like that.
So I think it's two things. I think, to speak to the solidarity of a church, sometimes you may be talking to this type of person. They may look at solidarity as size, right, and number, or what's happening there. And what I've had conversations with, I'm like, a lot of times, bro, those solid churches are not going to be what's catching your eye off top. You got to just kind of, and I'm not saying all of them, so don't call us and don't be hitting up us on Instagram saying, well, my church got 100 folks. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, you have to be willing to look at smaller spaces and environments where you're going to get like quality teaching and preaching, because that church is concerned about who's there, right? And they want people to come, but they're not trying to give you a show every week. They give you a solid worship service, and they preaching and teaching to what you need. And then they have programs, they have things, conferences, discipleship classes that are going to help you, and you got to be willing to look for those things. But like you said, I think that goes back to, what do you need?
All right,
like, where are you?
I'm gonna throw another one at you. This is breakdown with Just. You ready? Last one, because I know we run out of time. So last one. I hear what you're saying, bro. But why it seemed like I gotta sacrifice either worship or the word to find a so-called quote unquote solid church. Either the worship trash or the word trash, but I'm jamming every Sunday.
So listen,
how come that's the case, Justin?
me and my wife had a debate about this.
You ain't giving me no help.
Me and my wife had a debate about this, and I'm gonna say this, and it's probably gonna get a lot of pushback. A lot of sound worship, like the worship be off the chain, the word be trash. I'm talking about the word be trash, and I think that's a work of the enemy, cause he know if I get this music popping, shoot, they ain't gonna be worried about no word. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that you're gonna have to make a sacrifice. What's more important? Do you need to go get a word that's gonna help you kind of calibrate? Okay, what do I need to be doing this week? How do I need to fix my walk with the Lord? What do I need to be delving into? Okay, man, he cut me deep with that. Or are you trying to get Hezekiah Walker and Fred Hammond on stage?
Right?
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Some weeks I just want Fred.
I feel then you're gonna have to jam that in your car, because the Lord is still he's trying to reach you where you are, and he's concerned about your worship. But you gotta get that word. And this sound churches that's got good music. It's not gonna be on the CD. It's not gonna be on your Apple Music. But that real dope worship concert experience, that's all they got for you, Doc. That's all I'm gonna say on that. And I'm a musician, so I know it.
So listen. In closing, Lord.
You ain't have to pull that one out.
Here's
like
what I
that.
would say. Do the inner work. Do the self work. Do the self awareness work. That would ask the tough questions to yourself and be honest with yourself and say, why am I not in church? Mm-hmm. Why am I not in community?
Yeah.
Why do I hate going? And I bet you, 90% of you will probably come to find that a lot of the reasons you're not there
something happened along the way.
Listed here in this episode.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, learn how to say no. Learn how to balance. If you do not know how to do either of those things, get with a leader to hold you accountable to learn how to do those things.
Right.
And understand that we're called to be in community.
Yeah.
We're called to be in church.
Amen.
We're called to be serving.
Yeah.
We're called to be meeting needs of others, preaching the gospel. And so these are things that the believer cannot escape.
Right.
And so essentially we need to get to a place where our hearts and minds are back excited about what God, his ultimate agenda is for.
Yeah.
Which is all the things that I listed. So if you're struggling with that, hit us up. Definitely comment. We hit back. And this is it, man. Mad Black Podcast. If it's in the culture,
it's in the show.